Alright, what's up everybody, it's Schplef, and today we are playing some Modern Warfare 2019. Modern Warfare 4? We're playing Modern Warfare 4. And I'm going to be talking about some complaints that people have had against the game. Mainly being that it's trash. I guess. That's a big complaint. They're like, oh, the map sucks, this sucks. You know, don't get me wrong, I love Modern Warfare. But, you know, and I think this game is one of the better Call of Duties that has come out in recent years, and it isn't perfect. And I think there are some changes that need to be put in place to overhaul the overall feeling of the game. You know, and as we get farther from the release, hopefully with the addition of some solid maps or changes to existing maps, changes to pacing of the gameplay, balancing patches, etc., we can get this game off the ground to cruising altitude. And with this being said, I want to talk about what makes everyone want to camp in Modern Warfare and what could be done to alleviate this issue. We'll start with the general gameplay. And when this game was released, we were all expecting, you know, that Modern Warfare series vibe. Like, oh, is this going to be like Modern Warfare 2.0? Oh shit. Or is it going to be like a COD 4? And, you know, what we got was something closer to kind of Call of Duty Ghosts, you know, that much slower pace with, like, the leaning feature or whatever. Now, I didn't play a whole lot of Ghosts, so I'm sorry if the comparison's incorrect, but from the limited time I did play Ghosts, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. Now, there are still elements of Modern Warfare 2 that are in the game, and, you know, Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 3, but, you know, there's a few things that just are different, and I think it changes the game drastically. So after putting some hours into the game, you know, I found these few things that would really help with the slow pacing of the game. In my opinion, I think the ADS speed out of sprinting is far too slow, and this really hinders any sort of rushing tactic. In Modern Warfare 2, if you push somebody who's already aiming down their sights, you had a slight chance to win the gunfight because you could pull your sights up fast enough, you know, with Sleight of Hand Pro. And therein lies the problem. Players prefer to camp because you are most likely going to win a gunfight when you are already ADSing. Even if you have maxed out ADS attachments. I still have to test that. But I'm pretty sure. I find that guns still struggle to win gunfights against someone already ADSing. And on top of this, I find the general ADS speed to be too slow, which again causes players to prefer camping. These two minor pointers are what is causing the game to really slow down. It's much easier to just sit in a building and wait for somebody to come by with your sights already up, versus rushing at somebody and hoping to God that they're not aiming down their sights, because it takes fucking years to get your sights up. And this kind of leads me to my next point, which is walking speed. When you're aiming down your sights, your character's move speed is dramatically decreased. And this again is a problem for players that prefer to move around the map quickly, as you become a much easier target to keep your sights on. So if they're aiming at you, if your move speed when you're ADSing is faster, you'll be able to, you know, strafe back and forth pretty easily. But in this game, it seems like you almost slow down to a crawl, and this makes the enemy who, you know, hypothetically is camping, aiming at you, he can just hold the trigger down and spray you. He doesn't have to move left or right, you just, you know, fucking shoot and spray. So it'd be much harder for him to hit you if, you know, if your character could move left and right really quickly. And that's one of the things in Modern Warfare 2 that I noticed, is you can strafe back and forth pretty quickly. In Counter-Strike, you can strafe back and forth pretty quickly. In Siege, you can strafe back and forth pretty quickly. But in this game, it doesn't seem like there is that element. Next up, we'll move on to maps. And let's be honest, the maps are not great in this game. There are a couple maps where I'm like, yeah, this is pretty decent. And then there are a lot of maps where I'm like, well, at least I'm not playing Piccadilly. But I don't think these maps are as bad as people are making them out to be. A lot of these Call of Duty players that are playing right now really started with the very fast-paced jetpacking games like Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare, Black Ops 3, and they're used to these 3-lane maps with easy sightlines and not much verticality, or I guess a lot of verticality because of the jetpacks. You know, yeah, I don't know. Is it verticality if you can reach those heights? Who knows? And these maps that Infinity Ward have bestowed upon us are the complete opposite, and that's the exception of a few. If we look at COD 4 maps or Modern Warfare 2 maps, you can clearly see similar patterns with the current gen Call of Duty maps. A lot of verticality, multiple levels, hidden passages, lots of clutter. And what I find funny is that this is what the Call of Duty community wanted. They were all like, oh, dude, like, we can't do 3-lane maps anymore. Like, can you give us you know, bunch of buildings. We want like good line of sights. We want a lot of angles. We want to be able to shoot people from everywhere. And Infinity was like, yeah, we can do that. So we'll bring back the guy who made the Modern Warfare 2 maps, and he'll make some new maps. And they did that. And they made these maps. And now everyone's like, whoa, dude. Whoa, dude. Everybody's camping. Everybody's camping. They're just sitting in their little rooms with their claymores and shooting people. And I'm thinking like, yeah, that's what people did in Modern Warfare 2. So let's get to the point. These maps and the maps in earlier Call of Duties promoted camping, plain and simple. Like, you can go back and play them, and you will see camping. There are tons of spots in the newer maps that allow you to put 2 claymores down and sit there, and it's nearly impossible to kill you unless somebody shoots a noob tube in there or somehow reaches a predator missile in there. Take high-rise, for example, on top of the buildings. Very, very hard to get killed up there. Take estate in the room. You could put claymores on the stairs and camp up there all game long. There's tons of maps like this. And you know, if I started playing in Advanced Warfare or Infinite Warfare or Black Ops 3, where camping wasn't really an issue because you could just jump to where they are or evade bullets, and I got dropped into these maps that Infinity Ward created for us, I would sit my ass down in a corner, drop a claymore, and wait for some poor soul to waltz by. It's the easier playstyle with very little risk and high reward. And now that I think about it, there hasn't really been a release for a shooter in a while that's a slow-paced game. You know, PUBG is pretty slow, but there's no, you can't camp really. Maybe like at the last circle, you could kind of camp, but you're forced to move, you know, every wave of the barrier. Fortnite, same thing. You have to move. Black Ops 4 was extremely fast-paced. There was virtually no camping because it just was too quick. You couldn't. Apex is a BR. All these BRs and all these fast-paced games have been getting released, and suddenly Call of Duty's just like, yeah, how about we tone that down a fuckload? And everyone's like, holy shit, okay. Wasn't expecting this, it's trash. So, yeah, the maps need some work. Don't get me wrong. There are some things they could board up. There's some general, you know, object changes they can make that would make the maps flow a little bit better. But, you know, I think people are just having issues with these maps because they're so completely different than what we've been used to. It's either been massive open world maps or, you know, 3-lane Counter-Strike maps or 3-lane Black Ops 4 maps. So overall, the biggest things that Infinity Ward I think could fix that would really help this problem is to increase the slow ADS speeds. And by that I mean make them faster. Make character movements faster. And what I mean by that is their ADSing speed, their walking speed, and possibly just the overall character movement. So, you know, not only would you move faster when you're ADSing, but just slightly move faster when you're walking, when you're sprinting, when you're super sprinting. Just to speed up that gameplay, just a touch. It still has to have that slow vibe. But I think if, you know, maybe just like walking speed was a little bit faster, or your sprint was a little bit faster, but maybe not all three. And I guess the thing I noticed with earlier Call of Duties, we'll take Modern Warfare 2 for example, because that's the game I played the most, is that maps promoted camping. Don't get me wrong, I talked about it earlier. They promoted camping, plain and simple. They had tons of sight lines, lots of cover, lots of hidden spots, and really tight buildings, close quarters. They had all of that. The biggest difference, though, is that Modern Warfare 2 had very fast-paced gunplay. You could ADS almost instantly with Sleight of Hand Pro. Your character could fly around the map with very fluid movement and move speed. Modern Warfare 2019 has both camp-heavy maps with slow-paced gameplay. Modern Warfare 2 and COD 4 have camp-heavy maps, but with fast-paced gameplay. And these two different points were what made Modern Warfare 2 and COD 4 seem balanced. Camping was still viable due to the maps and the available perks, and rushing was still viable due to the fast movement, ADS speed, and available perks. Each style had its positives and negatives. Now Modern Warfare 2019 makes rushing very difficult because if you get caught with your pants down sprinting, you're going to lose the gunfight. Like 90% of the time. Because of this, people are going to camp. Because it's hard to ADS, because you move slow when you're aiming down your sights. Because the maps are centered around, you know, camping and not moving across. So, what needs to be done is, Infinity Ward needs to make the ADS speed faster, the general ADS speed faster, increase the move speed while ADSing, increase the general movement speed maybe, and, you know, possibly alter the maps. You can have a game that is camp heavy, you just have to make sure the anti-campers are harder to hit and that they have a chance to win a gunfight. Because if somebody is camping, and they're shooting at somebody, if it's really easy to kill them, camping is going to be super good. And that's the case we have here. And with these few changes, I think the game will turn out for the better. You know, this isn't some like, oh, if they just do this, the game's fixed. Like, obviously there's more problems with the game. This is just one topic that I wanted to talk about and kind of bring up some opinions and pointers that I think could help. But, you know, the 0.02% chance that some Infinity Ward dev sees this and they're like, you know what? Those are some pretty good changes. But anyways, that's going to do it for this episode. I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.